Monday, July 1st. We have reached July. Welcome, Damon Bruce, Larry Kruger, and it's great to have you here on Wake Up. Got some 49ers news to go over. Got a Klay Thompson goodbye to get you ready for, because it seems like that's about to happen. And what do you know, Larry? The June swoon wasn't as bad for the Giants as it might have been. They sort of saved their bacon with a decent homestand against the Cubs and Dodgers. We got a few things to get into. What's going on, brother?
Well, you know, this is the calm before the storm. And if you say, well, what's the storm? Every year, my brother and I get together on the 4th of July. Even though my brother's a judge, very much a rule follower, he has always had, since we were little kids, he's always had this pyromaniac side to his personality.
He likes to blow things up.
He likes to blow shit up. He, you know, whether it's firecrackers back in the day, M80s. Hey, we found an M80 in the sand. Let's light it off. So even though it's a one time a year, my brother, who's normally very responsible, very measured, there's a little bit of a Cold War going on, you know, a little bit of an arms buildup. He sent me a picture of the super package that he has purchased from Red Devil. I went to TNT, also got an equal package. Yes. And so I will be bringing my fireworks to his firework display, and they're illegal. It's contraband, Damon, in Contra Costa County, which is the county I reside in. But it is legal as legal gets, as legal as a joint in downtown Denver. When you go up to Sacramento County, where we will blow stuff up on July 4th. The Cold War has begun. The arms race has begun. There are limits, and I think I've been calling my brother Ronald Reagan. He's trying to outspend me, to spend me into some kind of, bad situation where we can't feed our people. You know what I mean?
Well, as long as the skies glow with spectacular tributes to your patriotism, the kids really don't need to eat as much as you and your brother need to impress each other with the amount of fireworks you're willing to bring to bear at any party. I'm excited. I hope you have as many fingers on Friday as you have today, Larry. I
used to actually light these things, by the way, Damon. I used to actually light the fireworks. Now there's enough boys in his family and my family that they're out there lighting stuff. It's an elaborate setup. It's a board set up that's balanced on two ladders in the middle of the street.
Oh, so you got a bona fide launching area.
We've got Cape Canaveral, and then in addition to that, there will be the final. I think he spent like $50 on the final show, or the big show. It's like this gigantic firework.
Okay,
so it's kind of, if all I would say is, if my brother is kind of like Mr. Conehead in the movie Coneheads, where everybody's going with regular fireworks and then suddenly he busts out something crazy. There it is. We're a couple days away.
We have a great spot here in the city of San Francisco in terms of 4th of July, because normally if you go downtown and you go to the Embarcadero and you want to see the city's big fireworks display, normally normally you get fog and you get glowing clouds more than you get an actual
red fog, orange fog, green fog.
Yeah. So low level, more pedestrian fireworks actually work better in San Francisco than the professional fireworks. And we have, because we live so close to Reardon is parked in front of this big parking lot, which is used for City College. And then there's this old, like reservoir that's been concreted over as a parking lot. So we got all kinds of perfect to blow shit up space right in our neighborhood. And God bless our neighborhood, we are filled with Chinese people. And this is not a stereotype. This is a fact. Chinese people love fireworks. Our 4th of July local fireworks is better than anything else going off in California. Like, we get an incredible fireworks display just out of our little backyard parked over parking lot spot. So it's perfect. I love the 4th of July.
It's not the fireworks aren't what they used to be. Like, I have to explain this to my kids. The sparklers when we were kids used to be it would fire off all kinds of sparks. Now it's like a super burning edge, and the sparks fly like about 7-8 inches away from where you're holding the sparkler. But it used to be, it wasn't like such a burning, core, but the actual sparks
went more of a plume.
Yeah, they got rid of that. And then the ground flowers used to be much bigger, and you could put them on the ground and they literally would shoot across the street under a car. I mean,
yeah.
But it was like the ground flower that you're used to now, but on steroids. So it's like they have kind of muted them to some degree.
Well,
the best they can to mute the fireworks.
Wake up, get your fireworks display right.
Get your fireworks, get your punk. You need a punk. Every good, you got to have a punk which lights you light the punk, which then so you don't have to sit there and keep hitting the lighter the whole time and it's wind's blowing. So you light what they call the punk, and then you light the fireworks with the punk.
I just want to see you and your brother with two huge, like we're about to go explore a cave, torches, just lighting fireworks on your ladder.
I have to tell you, because there was almost a major, first of all, I don't even want to joke. There has been a major incident at my brother's place. His neighbor across the way, who he's got a little bit of a Reagan Gorbachev thing going as well, as far as a little arms race. A couple of years ago, I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago, they got out there a little on the early side. And I said, hey, Chris, I noticed their pace is they got kind of a fast pace, faster than our pace. He's like, yeah, I think he's got somewhere to go tomorrow. So they go out fast pace, burn up their fireworks, immediately put them in their garbage can, pour a little water on it, and put the garbage can in the garage. The garbage can caught fire in the middle of the night, burned up their garage, their front room, destroyed both of their vehicles in their garage. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage. Luckily, nobody died.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't want
actually happened to that was my brother's neighbor. And then also a couple years ago, Damon, my brother's friend lit off a firework that was like literally a small, if you can picture this, a small hot air balloon. It had a fire in it and a balloon around it, kind of like a cloth balloon. And I go, that doesn't look too safe. And she's like, no, it's safe. Whatever. So she lights it off and the thing starts to float away like a hot air balloon, except it's heading right for my brother's neighbor's tree. And sure enough, as it's moving up, it's moving closer to the tree. And I'm sitting there next to my brother going, because we're talking about literally a fireball that would have made the tree go on absolutely on fire, right? So I'm kind of like, oh no. And it gets to the top of the tree and it kind of bumps into the tree and frees itself up and floats away. I mean, we were 5 seconds away from that tree catching on fire.
That's the Holy Ghost of 4th of July getting you through that moment. So
right.
I'm glad
looked up there and I said, 4th of July gods, thank you. I owe you one.
Little lesson for everyone. Don't put your fireworks in a trash bin, and then don't put that trash bin in your garage. You want to keep fireworks away from anything that's got gasoline in it. You'd think this was
submerge them in water for a good half hour to 45 minutes. Because what happens is a lot of these fireworks have pockets to make sure that the red goes and then the green goes and then the green and red go together. And so they're kind of intricately designed inside. Sometimes there's pockets that you think you've extinguished the firework, but there's a pocket that's still smoldering from within. So
watch your pockets.
Watch your pockets. And more than anything, don't rush. Be very deliberate, very deliberate. And then when you're putting them in your garbage can, put them in there, submerge them in as much water as you possibly can. There you go. You've
Like
been
and
warned.
subscribe, and most importantly, make sure that you watch Friday's Wake Up with as many fingers as you're watching Monday's Wake Up with. It's great that you're here. Thank you.
Hook 'em
for being with
horns.
There you go.
It's gonna be something like that, right?
There you go. Yeah. What's Jason? Jason Jason. Who
Pierre
is it?
Paul.
Jason Pierre-Paul had himself an M80 go off in his hand, and he lost digits.
Yeah.
He almost
Still
lost
was
his
a pretty
career.
good pass rusher, though.
He was.
He
He was. Anyway, look, Larry, we have more than just the 4th of July to celebrate. Let's start with the good news here. Miss Universe has become Mrs. McCaffrey. Olivia Cupo and Christian McCaffrey get married in a big, beautiful service in Rhode Island. They love Rhode Island. And if you love Rhode Island, that can mean only one thing. You are white and you got money. So the McCaffreys are officially both. And I think we have already buried the lead. Like, congratulations. I hope it's a lifetime of love and happiness and beautiful children who will be athletically inclined and all of these things. Have you seen Kyle Shanahan's mustache? Let's just start right there.
I did, but it's funny. It's so funny that he got married this weekend. I saw the most hilarious comedy routine. Sometimes I like to watch a little stand-up comedy on Netflix or whatever, and I forget who it was. He's like, marriage is such a different thing for men and women, and he's like, for women, it's like, hey, congratulations. Oh, for men, it's like, that's all right, man. We'll throw you a hell of a bachelor party. It's gonna. Don't worry. It's like you're consoling them for having like a lifelong disease. Dude, it's going to be all right. Yeah, you're going to make it through. Odds are it's going to be all right. He'll be all right. Yeah. It's a totally different deal. But yes, congratulations. And Kyle Shanahan's mustache was very Peter Sellers like. I think it's a bad look, dude. I think Shanahan will lose his ability to call plays altogether unless he shaves that.
It feels like a summer mustache. We'll see if it actually makes week one. Maybe it's the missing ingredient, Larry. I'm just throwing that out there. He is 0 for Super Bowls with no mustache. Maybe the mustache is the missing ingredient. I don't want to take a strong position on it either way. I just want to kind of go with the flow of the mustache. We'll see if it makes it to the podium.
Have you ever gone mustache
training camp?
I mean, I know you have a mustache now,
right?
If anybody notices,
mustache.
I shave like this. So I shave my mustache. I shave my sideburns. But sometimes I'll leave like the chin fuzz.
Chin music.
Just down here. I used to go soul patch there, but I kind of didn't like it. So I just I like a nice outline of a goatee, but then if it gets too thick, then I get the thing and I thin it out. I'm not really a facial hair guy. I'm not really a mustache guy. I could grow one, but I just don't like the look of just the singular mustache.
Yeah, like I've known you for 20 years. I can't think of a mustache on you ever. Not even when you were rocking little partial goatee action. You really don't do it.
I had the black, Mike. I've got some pictures of me holding my kids where I had the goatee all the way around.
Okay.
But in the last, decade or so, I shaved the mustache and I just go underneath.
I saw Kittle at the wedding. I didn't see too much of anyone else. I'm sure there were other teammates there. I've got no interest in seeing the wedding album. I didn't look, but Kittle's always looking for a camera to find him. And it's just amazing though. The 49ers invoke like emotions in people, like people that are like grown up adults. Like I don't even want to tell you who it is. A buddy of mine who's in the media texted me over the weekend. He's like, look at these freaking preening schmoes. And I'm like, what is offensive about this? I'm like, they're at a wedding, so you're allowed to wear sunglasses outside in the middle of the day. You're not an asshole for doing that. You're allowed to wear a tuxedo when you're in a wedding, which Kyle was. I'm like, I don't see anything offensive about this. You just don't like the Niners, dude. And he's like, you're right. I just don't like the Niners.
When you ain't us, so you hate us because you ain't us. And then, there's a part of the ESPN 30 for 30 on the bad boy Pistons. There's a great line from Isaiah Thomas at the beginning of that thing where he's like, when you win, if you win, you're going to affect people's emotions. And that is really, really true. I mean, it's true across generations. It's true across sports. People don't hate the Milwaukee Brewers, but they hate the Yankees. Right. Nobody hates the Arizona Diamondbacks. They hate the Dodgers. Nobody hates the Detroit Lions, but they hate the Cowboys.
Right.
They hate the Niners. They hate the Patriots. They hate,
Hey, Damon, what do you think of Northwestern basketball?
I don't.
I don't think of Northwestern basketball. That's what
Glorified high school is what I think.
Yeah.
Consistent Big Ten beatdowns. But yeah, nobody hates when you win, you affect people's emotions. And when you affect people's emotions, they lash out. So
They do. So
people there you go. But congrats to McCaffrey. He's a good dude. And I don't know anything about his bride. She's famous, I guess, right?
So she was a former Miss Universe. Absolutely beautiful woman. Seems to be like 1,000,000,000% dedicated. She's there by his side. She's at game. She is. Look, I don't know anything.
What is it about the Niners and Miss Universe? Dwight Clark had Sean Weatherly back in the day.
I've heard that. I've heard that anyone who's had an interaction with her walked away very impressed by her. She's an impressive young lady, and congratulations to the McCaffreys. I would like to go and get like a future prop bet on their children right now. They're going to be, look at it this way. Mom's a Miss Universe. Dad is an all-pro who went to Stanford, who is a generational athlete. Like, this kid is set up from a DNA jackpot standpoint, whether it be boy or girl. So congratulations to future McCaffreys and the progeny, and very happy for all involved. It's nice when people get married. I used to not care about marriage the way I didn't really care about kids, Larry. And then I got married, and then I had kids. And then you start looking at things and considering things differently, and you get older. And it's nice. Being in a great marriage is a really nice thing.
I was looking for, Damon, you know what I was looking for? I thought
you were adjusting a camera or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I stood up because I wanted to type in Miss Universe because I thought, remember that, that soundbite where she's like, talk about world peace, and she's like, world peace and
Iraq as such.
Yeah, South Carolina and South Africa and stuff like that. And I want world peace. Why are maps important? Because people don't know where they're going in like South Africa and places like that.
And Iraq.
The Iraq.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's like, thank you, Miss. So I thought it was South Carolina.
I have only one thing to say about her. She sure is pretty. That's it. That's all I got on her.
Hold on, I got to type in USA. Hold on.
You want this woman to appear on the show today, don't you?
I mean, it's just an awesome soundbite. It's not going to pop up, but anyway, it's like
it's one of the all-time
Mario, whatever, from Saved by the Bell is doing the interview, and he's like, "Thank you, Mrs. South Carolina Slater." Yeah.
It
was epic. I guess I can't find it.
Yeah. Either way, congratulations to the couple. Did you see that Brandon Aiyuk got the TMZ treatment where he actually got someone with the camera chasing him through SFO after his meeting with the 49ers? Larry, he actually said 3 teams' names out loud. Are you ready for all 3 teams? It's the same 3 that we've been talking about for the last 3 months. 49ers, Commanders, and Steelers. He basically said he thinks he's going to get a deal done with the 49ers without actually saying it, but it certainly sounds like that. He also admitted to the fact that he is very much enjoying the attention that he's getting right now that he hasn't gotten before in his career. It feels like wide receivers have always come in 2 different distinct packages. They're either divas or they're lunch pail guys. And every moment of Brandon Aiyuk's career has been a lunch pail type of guy, but he's enjoying the diva moment that he's getting right now. I'm not going to begrudge him that. He's watched an awful lot of guys get very, very famous playing for this team, and he probably feels like he isn't one of them. So he's enjoying the attention, and I think that the attention is about to fade into a football contract to come play for the 49ers again. I think they're going to get this done by the time we get to training camp. I really hope that they do. It feels like there's been progress made, and a little cooling down on both sides has begun. Don't you think?
I hope so. I hope so. I hope it gets done. I will say this though. I watched the entire Pivot podcast with Ryan Clark and Fred Taylor and Channing Crowder, the Pivot podcast by Fanatics, and their guest this week was Aiyuk. And I watched the whole thing and I took notes. And this is what I got out of it. I'll just give you the quick summary of what I got out of it. First of all, he tells Ryan Clark that the Niners called him and said, we're not on the same page, and it doesn't look like we're going to wind up on the same page. So that tells me that Parag's playing super hardball. Then he admitted that at times they've been super close, at times they've been super far apart as far as the offers, and that the market changed a couple times. And
without cutting you off, how do you get from super close to super far apart? If your neighborhood is super close, how'd you get to the neighborhood of super far apart? If you were
that's a great question. And I think it's because the market reset itself as far as new wide receivers signing and the market went up. I think the money that he would have taken 6 months ago, or he thought was fair 6 months ago, is now not fair. And so, and then he basically admitted that over the past month or so, that they haven't talked, they haven't agreed, and that there's been no dialogue, no movement. And it sounds like we're at an impasse now. Camp's over a month away or whatever. So how big of a deal does it make? But so that was the first part. Then he was asked about the leaking of the offer, right? Silver said it was $26 million. That obviously came from somewhere. He said it's frustrating. He goes, that's a little bit disrespectful and unfair to me. But at the end of the day, it's a dirty game, and I understand that, and I'm not naive to that. So he kind of understands, even though he doesn't like the fact that somebody released that number, and also it tells you that Silver got it right. You know what I mean? Otherwise, he wouldn't care. Then I thought,
first of all, congratulations to Mike Silver. He can stand on his credibility with anybody.
Somebody leaked it to him.
But at the same time, anyone who knew anything was in that $26 to $28 million price range anyways. It doesn't take an insider with inside information to a ballpark to guess kind of in that neighborhood. We all knew he was in that
maybe Mike guessed, or maybe he had a source. But then I thought the other thing that was kind of interesting was that he tweeted out at the end of the Super Bowl, "Don't forget what got you there." And he admitted when he was pressed on it that was a direct relation to the fact that, he went for 100 yards 6-7 times in the regular season, and he only got 3 catches, I should say, in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. And he was frustrated about that. And then he admitted that he's underutilized in the offense, and the Crowder brought up the fact that he's 7th in the NFL in receiving yards, but 23rd in the NFL in targets with 106, way fewer than most of the other number 1 receivers. And he's like, I got so much more to give. So he kind of says I'm underutilized. Then they're asking, well, don't you wonder what you could potentially be if you were utilized more? And he's like, yeah, and that's why I'm thinking about what I can do right now playing with that guy. And he points over to Jaden Daniels. There was an awful lot of, what wouldn't it be awesome to play with Jaden Daniels? And then he was asked a couple direct questions I thought were really interesting. He says, would you give up everything that the Niners represent, winning Super Bowls, etc., Shanahan, weapons, to get the bigger money? And he says the answer that makes you say he's going for the money. He says, I got here by taking chances, by taking risks. So in other words, yeah, I'd rather get the bigger money than have what the Niners offer. I thought that was really interesting, but there was more. Then he says, he's asked about, once again, Daniels, and he's like, I forget it was Clark who said, man, have you ever thought about maybe being on the right team in the right spot at the right time with the right quarterback? And he cuts him off and he says, hey, I am on the right team at the right time, in the right spot with the right quarterback, just not on the right terms, so as to not disrespect Brock Purdy. Then he was asked about playing with Daniels again. He says, I've got one more meeting set up at the Niners. If it doesn't go well, I'd like to play with Jaden. I think he can help me take my game to the next level. So now he's saying that he thinks Jaden can take his game to the next level and that he'd like to play with Jaden. Of course, that meeting did take place, and the Niners and Aiyuk supposedly had a good meeting, and they're on the same page. So things did go well. So obviously that's a factor here. And then one last one I thought was really interesting, Damon. He was asked, if he would, if he's thought about it. Hey, You ever thought, how many guys on your team are going to get taken care of here? Kittle and, Aiyuk, CMC and Trent. And do you ever think when you're in your negotiations about, anybody else's money? He's like, no, I'm all about me. He's like, if you can't afford a Lambo, you can't have one. And he basically gave the answer. And I don't blame him. I know it came across as selfish to a lot of people, but that's the mindset. You don't worry about the team's finances. They're going to pay who they're going to pay. And you can't worry about that. But he was like not at all concerned. Then he said, I'm not doing a hometown discount. Then he kind of suggested that he might, but he really doesn't want to do a hometown discount. But then the ultimate question came up in this thing, and it was Ryan Clark. He said, what is your top priority? Which is really what this is all about. And Aiyuk said, taking care of my family and putting myself in position to be the best wide receiver I can be. He didn't say anything about winning. He didn't say anything about, being on a team that has lots of talent, lots of weapons. His top priority is taking care of his family, which means money. And that's his top priority over winning, over, so we've always you and I discussed this. Does he want a big bag on a winning team? Then maybe you sign with the Niners. Or do you want the biggest bag? And I don't give a shit what kind of team I'm on. And I think if you were going to sit there and watch that whole podcast, how that could not be the takeaway. He basically said it 5 different ways that he's a tempo setter, that he blocks downfield, that he wants to get taken care of, and that it's all about the money. It's all about getting the biggest bag. Then we get to the last question. And this is where I'm sitting there going, I wish this was the first question. I could have turned this whole thing off. He was asked, what are you going to buy when you get paid? And he's like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of a simple guy, but I'm going to take care of mom and dad. I'm going to take care of my mom and dad. I'm going to buy them a house or whatever he said. And then it comes out in this 3-minute conversation that Aiyuk's mom's not just a Niner fan. She's like diehard. She's like a lifelong Niner fan, diehard, biggest Niner fan of all time. And Aiyuk's like, she's on my side, so she'll go wherever I go. Yeah, but that's it right there, man. He doesn't want to. He's not going anywhere. Mom's a lifelong Niners fan, so he kind of gave it away there at the end. It's like he gave all the answers that said, "You better pay this guy. You better pay this guy. You better pay this guy," and then he undercut himself at the end by saying, "Mom's a huge Niner fan," and it's like, obviously, you're not going to want to upset mom. So.
Well, you're not going to want to upset mom, but the truth is,
that's a major factor.
The $14.5 million with the Niners, $28 million with Team X. Mom is going to lean forward and say, "Go get your 28." I mean,
sure. Well, maybe it depends. Yeah. Most likely, I would say most likely, but it is a major factor, I would think.
So he has no ability to dictate how this negotiation goes. Right. He is under contract for $14.5 million, which, by the way, is taking care of your family level of money. You can absolutely take care of your family and extended circle of friends for $14.5 million. That's after, you pay your agent. California takes its taxes and all processing and handling and shipping and blah, 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 blah.
Even Spreewell could take, remember Spreewell came out and was like, I can't live on 8 to 10 million. Yeah.
You can still do really, really well with the amount of money that he's under contract to play. This is about the 49ers goosing an already existing contract in a way that makes everybody feel protected and safe and secure and healthy. And I think that there's a way to do that. I think that Brandon Aiyuk reveals that he is at the same time caught up in the moment, also still a reasonable person. And you can say anything you want on your Pivot podcast. I think he does know he's in a good situation on a really good team, that if he were in a different situation, he might be more of a part of the offense. I actually think he's going to be more a part of the offense just right where he is, because I think the 49ers are about to throw the ball a little bit more this year than they did last year, just because you got a coach who trusts a quarterback for the first time since he's been here. And it's year 3. It's a big year for Purdy. I think they're going to be throwing the ball more. I think that
doesn't mean they're throwing it to him, though.
Here's the thing. If you're open, motherfucker, you're going to get the ball. It's just,
well, I hear you, but you know what? It's like the one thing that doesn't make sense to me when I'm watching, like I'm looking at the Niners numbers last year, and I'm looking at the talent this year, and I'm looking at the mini camp I just watched, and granted there was no Aiyuk, so maybe that impacted things, but seemed like Pearsall was a very big part of what they were doing. And I know why he's slated on paper, Damon, to be wide receiver 4. Wide receiver 4 last year was Ray McLeod. He caught whatever it was, 13 balls. This guy's not catching 13 balls. This guy's catching closer to 40 balls. And so they have to come from somebody. And I'm not saying they're going to come from Aiyuk, because you're right, whoever gets open, but they're coming from somebody. So maybe few from Debo, maybe some from CMC, maybe some from Kittle, maybe all those Conley, Ray, Ronnie Bell touches. But Pearsall is not going to get 15 touches. I just don't buy that. I think he's going to get quite a bit more than that. I'm going to say 3 times that.
We will see, right? Yeah. We will see.
So they may throw it more, but they may not necessarily throw it more to Brandon. We'll see how that goes.
Well, again, it's like, it's just we're talking about opportunities. You can't catch anything if the ball's not being thrown, and you might be able to catch something if the ball is thrown to you. I think they're going to be throwing the ball more this year than they did in the past 2 years. At the same time, we know that Kyle seeks balance. And running a football, I mean, look, running twice, throwing once is the ratio you do want pretty much across the board. Like, there is something to be said for, hey, we're getting 8 yards on the ground, like, easily today. So we're just going to keep doing that. Like,
and they added more running backs.
The 49ers I don't think the 49ers play with an offensive agenda to highlight anyone, to de-emphasize anyone. They take what the game gives them. Like, I think that's kind of how Kyle goes about it. He doesn't design game plans around Debo. He designs game plans around, what's this defense doing? How can I take advantage of it? And if you are the guy who is the difference in the, we can take advantage of this on this week, this matchup, you're going to get fed the ball. And if you're not, you might not get fed the ball. Again, Kyle is really good at doubling down on what works and eliminating what doesn't. So they to me, to a fault. I mean, and I've had Kyle tell me, well, that's not the way it works. But I mean, it's funny how the Rams, with the Super Bowl on the line in the NFC Championship game, did find a way to get the ball to Cooper Kupp. It's amazing. Even though he was their number one guy, and you figured the Niners probably tilted the coverage towards him, maybe even doubled him, definitely knew he was the top receiver. This is a couple of years ago, pre-Puka. They knew the ball was going to Kupp, and yet the ball still went to Kupp. So somehow, some of these teams, it's amazing, in the Super Bowl 54, the Niners were worried about Tyreek Hill, and it's amazing how Mahomes got the ball to Tyreek Hill on a big gainer. Here's the thing. Cooper Kupp and Tyreek Hill are both considerably better at what they do than Brandon Aiyuk is at what he does.
But I'm just saying, your other teams get their guy, their number one guy, the ball. So it's like, yeah, you're right what you said about how Shanahan kind of plays the hand as the defense. He'll take what the defense gives you, to almost a fault, because Debo touched the ball twice in the second half of Super Bowl 54. He was literally the betting favorite to win the MVP at halftime. So I gotta, kind of push back and say that if there's one thing I'd like to see Shanahan do more of, it's instead of being kind of, hey, we'll take what the defense gives us all the time, scheme open your best players a little bit more, orchestrate some touches for your big boys a little bit better, a little bit more often, a little bit more efficiently.
Again, when you have an offense that is so good, you want to spread the ball around as much as possible. It shouldn't be looked at as a bad thing. And honestly, like, hey, Brandon Aiyuk, you don't get paid per catch. You don't get paid per first down. You don't get paid per target. You get your contract for the year. I mean, Brandon Aiyuk, how about this? What if we paid you $30 million and you didn't get a target all year? Would you be cool with that?
Or how about this? I'm at the other discussion, which is, if you didn't have Debo, Kittle, and these other guys, and they were going to you, I mean, I don't know if Brandon noticed, but when the Niners were trying to get McCaffrey that record in the fourth quarter of that game, and they kept going to him over and over again, what kept happening? He was getting crushed. Why? Because the defense knew they were going to McCaffrey. There's an advantage. Yes. Are your numbers a little deflated because you play with all these other monsters? Yes. But your body is also preserved, and your career, you would think, elongated from the standpoint of they're not just waiting for you in the middle of the field ready to keyhole your ass every time, because they could be going to Debo, they could be going to Juice, they could be going to one of these other guys. And so there's a downside in loss of production, but there's an upside as far as you're not taking as many hits as Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill or any of these Amon-Ra. Those guys are taking more hits than you're taking.
Less is more. I mean, you wouldn't have to sell me too hard on that. And look, I would turn around and tell the 49ers too, like, just because you are not targeting this wide receiver, it's not an argument for less value. It's an argument for more value. When you're throwing the ball around as little as you do, your throws have more premium put on them, and the results better be there because you're going to have fewer cracks at it. So I don't buy this whole your wide receivers are worth less in this offense. I think the argument would be they're actually worth more because you're going to them less frequently. You need it to happen when it does happen. The whole thing has become a mind-numbing exercise in everyone knows exactly what's going on here. We've got it. We've analyzed this thing from all sides of the Rubik's Cube. We have talked about it from colors. We've talked about its patterns. We've talked about its shape. And it's just a matter of, Brandon, you have a contract. There is nothing you can do but kick, cry, and scream and play for $14.5 million if that's the way the Niners want to go about this. You got no Which
is why we're hearing about it, because he doesn't have any other. He's got no card to play.
No,
other than let's be an agitator and keep this in an off season where there's not a lot of headlines. We will be the headline. And
look, I don't want to tear the guy apart.
The fans have gotten tired of it. I've gotten tired of it. You've gotten tired. Everybody's gotten tired of it. It's not that we're mad at Brandon or any way frustrated with the Niners. It's just get it done, man. Get it done.
The way I look at it is his whole, like, if you can't afford the Lamborghini, you can't have one. You're not the Lamborghini. You're not. You're an important passenger. You look super cool getting out of the Lamborghini, but you ain't the Lamborghini. You're a part of it. You
know what he is? I thought about it too. We were talking about the cars, and so I bought in college a Jeep CJ7 from this rich guy who lived up in Marin, right in Tiburon. So I go to his house to pick up the car, and I couldn't believe, I thought it was a misprint. It was a car that I bought in 1995. It was an 86 CJ7. It only had 11,000 miles on it.
You took it to the farmer's market, and that's it.
So I'm like, I thought it was a mistake. I just figured out, well, maybe it was 111, right? Or maybe it's 77. I just read it wrong, or whatever. 33, something. There's no way he had 11,000 miles on a car that's 10 years old. You're getting 1,000 miles a year in your car. We get to this guy's house. He's got the pimped out circular driveway. He's got like 9 vehicles. He starts talking to me. He's got a house in right where you were the other day, Carnelian Bay. He's like, I got a house up in Carnelian Bay. I just drive the CJ7 to Tahoe. So basically he's just driven it from Marin to Tahoe like a bunch of times. That's it. Otherwise he doesn't use it. So he's got a red Ferrari sitting right there off to the right-hand side. And I'm like, wow, I wouldn't drive this Jeep CJ7 either if I had the red Ferrari. Brandon Aiyuk literally is that guy's red Ferrari that he drives also like every third Friday and every fourth Sunday. That's kind of what he is. He's a sports car that is awesome, but he's kind of underutilized a little bit. So he's got like low miles. So in a lot of ways, when you factor in the low miles, how much football he probably has left going forward, because you're only paying him for what he's going to do, right?
No, and he's been wildly dependable to this point. Like,
he's been dependable, and he's a run block. He loves to block in the run game. So, and he runs the patterns that you loved him to run in the middle of the field. So he works perfectly with your quarterback who succeeds in the middle of the field. So it's just in a lot of, and then when you look at him and you look at the numbers that he put up, 28 catches of 20 plus yards on like 105 targets, where the other guys in that neighborhood had 170, 180 targets.
Look,
the efficiency is off the charts.
He was Mr. First Down, like every single time.
He's like one of the most efficient wide receivers in the game.
Yeah.
And he blocks in the run game. So it's like, if you're the 49ers and you said, you know what, we want a wide receiver to excel in our offense, let's create one. This is what you would have created. This player is exactly what the 49ers, there is no better wide receiver. Tyreek Hill's not a better wide receiver for this offense. AJ Brown's not a better wide receiver for this offense. Justin Jefferson's a great player, but Aiyuk, with his blocking ability, his long arms, his lack of usage at this point, the low mileage on his body, he's really one of the 2 or 3 greatest fits for wide receivers for the Niners. And so it makes perfect sense that they would sign him, and no sense at all that they would ever trade him.
So,
but we'll see.
Jillian picked the family car. She did the research and she did it. First of all, I'm a little lazy. Like, I don't want to do it.
I don't even notice. What are you driving? I've never even asked.
We Sorrento mob over here. We got a Kia Sorrento.
Sorrento.
When Jillian said that she was looking at a Kia Sorrento, I leaned over and I just snobbily
said, I can jump over that. Oh, no, that was Blake Griffin.
I said, can we do a little bit better than a Kia Sorrento? And she's like, well, she's like, I test drove it. Let me bring it home. They'll let us take it for a weekend, and then we'll, make a decision by Monday. So I get in the Kia Sorrento for the very first time, and I'm like, this is actually nicer than I thought it was going to be. And then I drove it. I'm like, this car's got all the little bells and whistles of all the nothing that my other
fell in love. You were falling in love with a Kia Sorrento.
The Kia Sorrento is not the Justin Jefferson Ferrari sitting in the driveway, but the Kia Sorrento downfield blocks. It moves the chains on first down. The Kia Sorrento,
Puka Nacua of cars.
It's a well-priced, very good value, low mileage, fits what my family needs perfectly. The Kia Sorrento wouldn't be what the Miami Dolphins need, but the Kia Sorrento is exactly what the Bruce family needs.
It's so funny. I picked out our family truckster, and I picked out a midnight blue Chevy Tahoe, leather interior, used, but only 31,000 miles on it. Really, really low miles, right? I come home. You know what my wife says? It's too big. I go, we have 4 kids. They're going to get bigger. They were all little kids at the time, right? She's like, it's too big, because we had like a Dodge Caravan or something, it's one of the minivans, and the the whole chassis of a Tahoe is it is a little bigger Chevy Tahoe than a Dodge Caravan. I'm like, we need this size car. We still have the car. I mean, it's like 20 years later, we still have the car. It's now paid off. We needed it, man. We have 3 boys and a daughter, and everybody plays sports, and there's equipment, and Billy needs a ride home. And can you just pick up Johnny as well, because he lives on the corner? And pretty soon you look back in the back seat and there's 7 people back there. So you better have seats. And this is not 1977. You have to have seatbelts for everybody. So you're not taking 7 people unless you got 7 seatbelts.
How do you, Larry, convince a Lamborghini that he's a Kia Sorrento? And this is the problem. You got a man who thinks he is the Lamborghini, or if not the NFL's Lamborghini, he's the 49ers Lamborghini.
Jim says he's a Camry. He says, Aiyuk's a Toyota Camry, dependable, fast enough, not worth 30 mil.
That's the thing. The Niners, want to be made up of a fleet of Sorrentos and Civics and reasonable cars that get the job done. The only thing you got to do is put gas in it and check the oil. It's basically maintenance free. These Jaguars, these Lamborghinis, these Ferraris. Oh my God, you hit a pothole and the whole thing needs to go into the damn garage to be tuned up and recalibrated. And it's a big pain in the ass Italian sports car.
So yeah, I mean, seriously, Neck Time says, I just got a Camry. Yeah. Go into work next time and just announce that. See what kind of reaction you get. Hey, I just got a Camry.
That's Connect time, baby. That's Connect. Connect, baby.
Connect. Look, I just got a Camry. Yeah, all right.
Here's the thing. Brandon Aiyuk, I'm glad that you're enjoying the attention. I'm glad that you're enjoying the podcast invitations. I'm glad that you are out there with TMZ cameras following you around the airport. It's got to make you feel really good. I hope the attention is making you feel good, because it's time to sign a more reasonable than you want contract to come on back to a team that has no need to even give you this new deal other than for just getting along in harmony. And I would also say that the 49ers can get Brandon Aiyuk locked into a price point today, which today might feel an inch bigger than you want it to, but a few years from now will look like a totally normal, reasonable. That's what everybody at the position is making NFL contract. Remember, today's sticker shock is tomorrow's going rate. So
he's kind of like a Chrysler Pacifica, which I also used to do ads for. Lots of, you could hit one button on the Chrysler Pacifica and it would fold up the entire back row and like put it away somewhere. I mean, I don't know. Literally just doop, and
seats
just
went down.
I mean, they didn't just go down too. They got sunk into the car. You never saw them. It was amazing. And then also you press one more button and like all of a sudden it's a pop tent and you've got, room for everybody. It's stadium seating suddenly. I get it done. Just get it done. Though I will say this, I read an article this weekend. Somebody said, hey, how about the Denver Broncos? And it does seem like when Lynch seems like he's definitely has been able to make deals happen in the past with the Broncos. I think it seems like if there's one team that they've done lots of deals with, it's the Broncos. JM617 says Aiyuk at Chrysler Pacifica has a perfect match. But what do you think of this deal? What do you think of Aiyuk to Denver for Surtain and a receiver like Marvin Mims or somebody who runs well? Get a receiver, replacement receiver, just any receiver. I don't want Cortland Sutton in his monster deal. They already traded Judy, but let's just say they could get him for Marvin Mims and Surtain.
Surtain's looking
or
at
if you could throw in a piece and get Surtain, Marvin Mims, and DJ Jones.
Is Surtain about to make $25 million? I don't know what his contract looks like or how that.
I think he's a year away from free agency.
Okay. The answer is yeah. I would do that.
Surtain's a corner. They need a corner.
And here's the deal though. Like if Brandon Aiyuk is to be traded, I need body back. I need playable body back. And I don't care where that body plays if it makes the team better.
I agree. I totally agree with that notion, by the way. And if you're not getting the point that Damon just made, it's after the draft. Picks don't help you win a Super Bowl this year. They may help you win the next 5 Super Bowls after this year if you get the right guy, right? But it's not going to help you at all this year because the draft isn't until 2025. The only exception I would make would be for the Patriots. If the Patriots called and they offered their number one, that's the one team that I would, or Carolina, but I mean, Carolina is not looking for Aiyuk right now, but if the Patriots are, if honestly, the Patriots called and said that here's 2025 number one, I don't care. I don't care about the Super Bowl window anymore. I'm just making that trade because you very well, in my opinion, that would be for sure top 5 pick, minimum top 10, and the possibility of being in the top 1 or 2. And if you get
malpractice on New England's part, if they were to make that deal.
Yeah. So that's why it's probably never going to happen. But it has been rumored a few times. And if New England actually was offering their first round pick, I think the Niners would pull the trigger on it. The only thing I'll say about the Aiyuk thing at this point is Now that you have Pearsall and Cowing and this bevy of other receivers, I would be interested in trading Aiyuk if it was at a position of greater need. Like if you had some awesome left tackle that for whatever reason was on the trade market, yes, I'd rather have that awesome left tackle than Brandon Aiyuk. If you have Surtain on the trade market, yes, I'd rather have a true number one dominating corner on this Niner team right now than Brandon Aiyuk because of the other receivers they have. So, you also got to factor in what your team looks like. They got about nine or 10 receivers, and not that any of them are Aiyuk, but you got other needs. If somebody's offering you an offensive tackle or a defensive end or a all-pro safety or dominating number one corner, I think you're, almost obligated to listen.
Yeah. So, the third string all-pro says still the amount of money he's being taxed is crazy. It's California, double the taxes of some states. Look, you're right about that. But the thing is, you get taxed out the ass in Massachusetts too. And you walk outside and you got nothing to show for it other than the fact you're in Massachusetts. Like, California taxes suck. But at the end of the day, I step outside, I'm in California. You know what I mean? Like, I don't own a shovel.
Yeah, I mean, there's some advantages to living in California. Let me say this, though, and this is part of a different discussion, a larger discussion, more of a tax-based discussion. But this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. Now, why bother having all of these myriad of rules that create an even playing field if you're going to allow such an uneven factor to enter your playing field? Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, why bother saying, you know what? No, you can't practice on Thursday because everybody gets 28 days of off-season practice and you cannot have 29 because that will be a competitive advantage. Okay, so we don't want that. We can't give the Broncos one extra day of practice because it's deemed an unfair advantage. But teams can have major advantages tax-wise because of the state they reside in. And it's just in the cards. It's just the way it is. It's getting to the point, especially in California, where, how do you possibly win a bid for how do you have free agency and have an uneven playing field? It seems to me that the NFL, they ought to just make everybody play. You're registered to play in the NFL. And the NFL league offices are in New York and everybody pays New York taxes, or everybody, whatever. Your headquarters is LA and everybody pays California taxes. Everybody should pay taxes that are the same to have this, dramatically different impact. And especially it impacts them way more than it would impact somebody who's making $125,000 a year. You're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars. I'm watching this NBA free agency special and you factor in the California taxes and it's like, why the hell would anybody want to play for the Warriors or Lakers or Clippers or Kings when you could play for the Utah Jazz and have or the Miami Heat and have just a way, way better, keep way more of your money and make way more money. So to me, don't you think it's interesting that they allow this massive inequity to exist while acting like these other inequities cannot go on? Right. I mean, you will not be practicing one extra day, 49ers. Damn you.
You preach symmetry, but you have something that is incredibly asymmetrical in one of the most important categories that players really care about. Having said that, it doesn't stop players from signing with teams in California, because I also think that California opens up a land of opportunity that you won't have if you have a better tax situation.
Not in Sacramento. I hear what you're saying, your commercials and media and Hollywood and all that, but it's a far cry from Natomas. You know what I'm saying?
I get it. Look, I get it.
Yeah.
I
just would like to see them do something. I mean, you could create anything you wanted to equal out the playing field. It's a math equation. Create the equation that puts everybody on a level playing field, or put something in them. If the playing field's going to be so dramatically uneven, then you might want to develop some mechanism from within that makes it a little bit more even. Otherwise, what are we doing here?
Right. Someone's like, third string all pro says, not to mention California is a crime cesspool. It's not. It's not. It's fucking not. Like, here's the thing. I got people from cousin fuck Arkansas telling me that, San Francisco's terrible. You live in cousin fuck Arkansas.
Is that a real place, cousin fuck?
I don't think so. But like, here's the thing. Here's what California is if you live here. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. I know that you got a lot of Fox News dick in your ear, and that's all you hear. But
let's not go political. Let's not go political.
Awesome. California is great. Do we have our problems just like everyone else? We sure do. But on top of those problems is the state of California. We got better weed, better women, better wine, better everything, better music, better houses, better weather, better opportunity, more money around. Like, it's like California. I know that people have lost sight of this.
Run for governor. That sounds like it might be an opening soon.
Here's what California is. It's pretty fucking awesome. It's pretty fucking awesome. And if you don't want to be here, leave. Go. No one's.
Wait a second. A bunch of people heard you and they just left.
Nobody has been forced to move to California. Everybody is here voluntarily. We all want to be here. So tell me more. Again, tell me more about how San Francisco is an awful place to live. Please tell me more. Write it down and make sure you and none of your friends who feel that way ever come to visit. That'd be awesome.
There's pros. It's funny. I'm native and you're not. You're the one making the argument. I'll say this. San Francisco, California has some great, the mountains, the ocean. There's a lot of great things here for sure, but the expense is ridiculous.
It's exorbitant.
And, California is a place that you can move away from. You can't move to. That's the reality. Now, there are people, you moved here, but you moved here as a poor college student and you built up here. It's a hard place to come to after you've been.
It's tough to put down roots.
Well, it's a tough place to go, just period. You're moving from Austin, Texas. You've got, 3,200 square feet and 5 bedrooms and all kinds of furniture. And you move here, you got to sell all that furniture. You're not, you're not going to have that size of a house. So it's a hard place to come to. It's an easy place to leave because your house that's totally mediocre here is, 780,000, and 780,000 in suburban St. Louis buys you 3,500 square feet. Yeah. 780,000 square feet, 30,000 square feet in Austin buys you a circular, driveway and a pool and, all kinds of stuff. Here, that's a flop house. It's probably a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. It could be a studio in certain places. So it's just, and same thing in Manhattan, same thing in Hong Kong, same thing in, there's certain places that are just, the price is just crazy. But there's pros and cons. Pros and cons.
Look, this is the big leagues. And if you're a minor leaguer, it ain't for you.
My mom, was born and raised in Chicago. And I wouldn't call Chicago the minor leagues, but it is a lot less expensive. It is a lot less expensive.
Not.
It's much easier.
It's not. Well, but
it's much easier. I'm not talking about if you owned a pimp, penthouse in the Loop or something. I'm saying if you're just own a house in the south suburbs and you decide I'm going to move to the Bay Area and live in the suburbs, no, you're going to sell your house for $285,000 to $350,000, and you're going to come out here. And you're going to buy a house. An equal house is going to cost you $1.3 million. It just doesn't work. That's why you don't see it a lot. Or what you see is a lot of people do what you did. And hey, I went to college in the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest. I moved out here. I gave it a good college try, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. And now I'm going back. Kolsky, our friend Kolsky did that. There's many people that do that. I'm from the Midwest. I'm here. I try to make it. It doesn't happen after a while. And I want to buy a house. Now I've got a kid. You know what I mean? So
look at it this way. If California was such a terrible place to be, how come these houses cost this much? It's because everybody wants them. Things are priced.
There's no humidity. My daughter's in Atlanta. She's like, she's like, Dad, it's 90 here today with humidity. And I'm like, oh man, that sounds awful. And I spent a summer in Chicago, dealing with Midwestern humidity. I mean, the country is a sweat box right now.
It is. That's why I love San Francisco. It's always about 68 degrees, no big whoop. That's why I love it. The city comes with, natural air conditioning. We're surrounded by water on 3 sides. The fog is one of my best friends.
I like a little warmer than San Francisco. I like it. I mean, that's why I live in Walnut Creek, because it's hot. But to me, it's a little too hot. I'd almost rather, have a little cooler. But at least we don't get humidity here. We don't get humidity. We don't get hurricanes. We don't get tornadoes. I mean, that's the one when people are always like, oh, you live in an earthquake zone. Yeah, but you have no idea when an earthquake's coming. So there's nothing to prepare for. There's nothing to do.
Yeah.
If you're in one of these places
waiting for you anywhere,
you're living more Oklahoma. I mean, you are in the path of tornadoes coming up, when the air meets the Rocky Mountains, all of a sudden you've got tornadoes and all these things in the heartland.
At least you get a little warning with a tornado. These earthquakes do come out of nowhere. But look,
AJ Pierzynski used to tell me that they used to have hurricane parties in Florida, where he was from. They would, they'd find out a hurricane was coming. They'd actually have parties. But I think a hurricane is not quite the same as a tornado.
No,
as far as
you get days in advance. You get days in advance. Look, a bad hurricane can be just as bad as a bad earthquake. I mean, it can be awful. So,
M. Patel says the top 5 places Californians are moving to: Idaho, Arizona, Texas, and Florida. I will say this, Texas, Texas is like multiple places to me. But it's hot as hell. Yeah, and it doesn't cool off. And Arizona, I have Arizona on my phone because which had a buddy who's in Arizona the other day who was telling me about, this or that. And it's right now it is, what time is it? It's 9:51 in the morning. It's 92 degrees.
No, thank you.
In Phoenix.
No, thank you.
And it's going to be 101 at 1 o'clock, 102 at 3 o'clock. I'm just saying it's going to be 99 at 7 o'clock in Arizona tonight. It's going to be at midnight tonight in Arizona. It's going to be 90. 90 at midnight.
Yeah, no thanks.
90.
No thanks.
If it's 90 at midnight here, that sucks.
Right. Here's the thing. I would rather live in.
You don't even have AC, probably, right?
No. I would rather live in San Francisco with a whole bunch of needle problems in the Tenderloin, a neighborhood that I can just avoid going to, than live in Arizona where you can't avoid 118 degrees no matter where you go. You know what I mean? So
San Francisco's a great city. The only thing is that it's safer than it used to be when I was a kid. You could much easier get your ass kicked in the 70s in San Francisco than now. Now it's safer, but now it's more random. See, now you're going to have more break-ins. And you're going to have more smash and grabs. And you've got huge encampments of seniors living on the street. I mean, it's sad. I mean, San Diego, LA, San Francisco, all 3 of the biggest cities in California are just right now have massive and growing homeless encampments that, they've budgeted to do things about. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm not sure why it's getting worse and worse and worse. And the sad thing is if there's a big event, the Olympics, a Super Bowl, they just kind of herd everybody out of the way. So nobody has to step over, people during the Super Bowl. And they'll do it again when the Super Bowl comes back here. And they do it in San Diego and LA for big events as well. And that's kind of distasteful. But that's the issue, is that there's just huge amounts of homeless encampments, and they're just growing in California. And a lot of people are bailing out. And the reason they're bailing out is because they can afford to. You sell a house in California, you buy a house in Arizona, you can buy 2. You want to buy a house in Texas, buy 2. You want to buy a house in Idaho, probably buy 3. In certain parts of Florida, you might be able to buy 4. So, I mean, it's like, that's why people are jetting.
Jared says, Damon went from crime not too bad to not going to unsafe neighborhoods. Yeah, it's like when you go to New York City, you probably don't spend an awful lot of time in, oh my fuck, are we in trouble, Harlem? You probably don't spend an awful lot of time in Bedford-Stuy when you go over to Brooklyn to do your little.
Well, you can, and I'll say this: you
like
can
when you
sprint
go to Chicago,
out
you
of.
don't spend a lot of time in Cabrini Green. You just stay out of that neighborhood. I mean, come on, man.
Well, not only that, the cops stay out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing about San Francisco is that, you know, you can't. It's a small enough city where if you were in, I don't know, pick the worst corner in the city, whatever it is, whatever you deem is the worst corner of the city, you could literally run out of a bad neighborhood in like 5 minutes.
More than any other city in America.
You're not running out of South Central LA. You know what I mean? You're talking about blocks and blocks and blocks.
More than any other city in America, the haves and have-nots are on top of each other in San Francisco.
I saw it. I swear to you, I'm not making this up. This happened literally 6 weeks ago. A buddy of mine opened a restaurant. It's like upper Tenderloin. It's kind of like towards Nob Hill.
Where is it?
It's like Leavenworth. Well, I don't. He had a soft opening. It hasn't opened to the public.
Oh, okay.
So it hasn't quite opened yet. So he's working on he's got the land. He's got the whole thing. He's working on his menu. It's his first restaurant. Anyway, he did a soft open and invited a bunch of people. And it was like a 6 o'clock seating or whatever. Well, they were lined up. They were lined up outside down the street. And I looked, I got to the street and he's like, yeah, there'll be a line out front. So I didn't worry about the address. They just kind of told me generally where it was. I get to the street and I start walking. There's a line on both sides of the street. On one side of the street, it was for a soup kitchen. And for the other side of the street, it was for his brand new restaurant. And on the same street, you have people lined up for a soup kitchen and a foofy new restaurant. So it's like that's San Francisco right there.
All right. Well, when you do anything in the Tenderloin or the Tender Knob or wherever it is, that's what you get. That's what you get. And your buddy didn't open up that restaurant and then be like, oh, wait, I'm across the street from a fucking soup kitchen. He knew that the day he signed the lease. So It didn't surprise him. It shouldn't surprise you.
Z4 900. No. I just say.
Damon and Larry were downtown. What was that? I didn't see it.
He said, Damon and Larry, were y'all downtown in San Francisco dancing with blank, naked, blank yesterday? No, I wasn't.
So here's the thing. I'm not a gay man, so I didn't go to the gay festival. That's okay, right?
That's right. To each their own.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
If you want to go and do that, go ahead. I don't care. I don't care. I want to say this, and I'm a
native, though, and I will say
there's only one dick I worry about, and that's mine. That's it.
Good. That's good. I'm glad we got that update. I can see
yours doing. Is yours okay?
I didn't go to that. I was watching the Giants and the Dodgers. I was getting ready for NBA free agency. I was worried about Klay Thompson.
Okay, hold on. Wait, I got one last thing for you about the 49ers, and we got to talk a little Klay Thompson. Look, it's not going to be easy for the 49ers going forward. Full stop. The history is not on their side. The NFL.com story, basically, the name of the article should have been, "This ain't going to be easy, Kyle." For all the success that the 49ers have compiled, the Lombardi Trophy has been an unattainable triumph for the 44-year-old head coach, and history's not on his side. Following the 49ers' overtime loss to the Chiefs, Shanahan becomes the 5th coach in NFL history to lose his first 3 Super Bowl appearances as head coach or coordinator, per NFL research. None of the previous 4 coaches have ever won a Super Bowl. Shanahan is in hallowed company in that regard, joining Marv Levy, Vikings Bud Grant, Ted Marchibroda as an offensive coordinator with Washington and Buffalo, and longtime Vikings defensive coordinator Jerry Burns. Levy and Grant are Hall of Famers. Marchibroda and Burns are highly regarded coaches, but nevertheless, they've all fallen short of the Lombardi Trophy. For his career as a head coach, Shanahan is 8-4 in the playoffs. That equals a .667 winning percentage that stands as the highest in league history, without winning an NFL championship or a Super Bowl. Since 2010, the 49ers have advanced to 7 conference title games, the most in the NFC. However, they're 3-4 in those 7 games with 0 Super Bowl victories to show for it. So none of the history lines up that the 49ers are about to do this, but just because something hasn't been done doesn't mean it won't be done. And I would still very much bet on Shanahan to do this.
I mean, they're favored to win it this year. Whatever. Take that for whatever it's worth.
Whatever that's worth.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to win, but they're in it. They're in the mix. They got a shot.
Never in the history of my covering sports life or even rooting for the NFL life, I have never seen a Super Bowl loss so thoroughly scored against an offensive coordinator when the theme of that Super Bowl was they blew a 28-3 lead, right?
Right.
I
mean, I think Kyle Shanahan, it's all about what you think. I think Kyle Shanahan is a terrific coach. I think he's Andy Reid in Philadelphia. Andy Reid was a terrific coach in Philadelphia. He didn't win the Super Bowl, but he was a terrific coach in Philadelphia. Philly won a Super Bowl after getting rid of Andy Reid, but they didn't win a Super Bowl because they got rid of Andy Reid. And the Niners won't win a Super Bowl because they get rid of Kyle Shanahan. They're going to have to find, the Eagles found a guy in Doug Peterson that they could win a championship with. Interestingly enough, they chased him out, and they're now with Sirianni. And we don't know if Sirianni can win a championship. He's gotten close. But I mean, I personally believe that Kyle Shanahan is a Super Bowl winning head coach who has not won his Super Bowl yet. That's what I believe. But I know there's lots of people that believe that Kyle Shanahan is a incredibly flawed coach and will never win a Super Bowl. So it just has to, what camp are you in? Are you in the camp that believes that he's flawed and that he'll never learn and that he'll never win, have that kind of fatalistic, attitude that I'm sure Eagles fans had about Reid when he was there for 13 seasons and didn't get it done? Shanahan's going on season 7, I believe here. He hasn't gotten it done.
8.
It's 8. Okay. So it's 7 in the books. 8. This is year number 8. So yeah, I mean, he's still 5 years away from, the Eagles pulled the plug on Reid after 13 seasons. The Niners may pull the plug on Shanahan. I mean, you don't get forever, but if you said to me, give me a comparison that you think's appropriate, that would be it. I would say he is Andy Reid in Philly. He's had good teams. I mean, Shanahan has lost. I mean, let's just isolate this for just a second. Shanahan lost a Super Bowl where Tom Brady beat Matt Ryan, and he had Matt Ryan. He lost a Super Bowl where Patrick Mahomes beat Jimmy Garoppolo. He had Jimmy Garoppolo. And he lost a Super Bowl where Patrick Mahomes beat Brock Purdy, and he had Brock Purdy. So, yes, the Niners were favored in this last one. But, I mean, great quarterbacks typically win the Super Bowl. The best go back and look at the history of the Super Bowl. There's probably only like 1 or 2 examples where the better quarterback team lost the game. Usually the better quarterback's team wins the game. And you could make the argument that the better team in all 3 of Shanahan's Super Bowl won the game. I think Purdy's good, and I think Matt Ryan's good, and I thought Jimmy was good the year they were there, but the other quarterbacks were better. So everybody wanted to dump on Brock Purdy, and the plan was, let's just crap on Brock Purdy because he is the weakness. And then something ruined that story because he came out and showed that he wasn't. So now it's like, oh, shit, can't blame him. All right, well, who can we blame? Oh, Kyle. We'll blame Kyle. So now it's Kyle can't do it. And there's people up here in the chat. Kyle's not the guy. Where I forget where it was. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Gold Tau. Kyle equals choke artist. Okay. Here we go. Replace Kyle with Belichick. There's this anti-Kyle bend. But the reality is that I'm working on a book right now that's coming out, and it outlines the 49ers lineage as a franchise from when Mike Shanahan was the offensive coordinator of their last Super Bowl championship winning team in January of 95.
Wait, hold on. You're working on a book?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got a guy, a renowned author named John Bruning, who's written many books, and he and I together are writing this book. We're meeting later today. The book's written. I mean, it's 20 chapters. And it's basically,
I had no idea.
Yeah, it outlines the 49er run from Shanahan to Shanahan. We were going to release it on the Super Bowl, but then they lost the Super Bowl. So now we're kind of still tinkering with it. We're trying to pick out the exact right time to bring it to market. But yeah, there'll be a book out by yours truly on the Niners from when they last won, outlining all the different things that happened. They missed on Tom Brady. They missed on Aaron Rodgers. They brought in Terry Donahue. They brought in Mariucci. Eddie D lost the team to in the Governor Edwin Edwards situation and all the different things. Shanahan and Lynch were there. Balky and Harbaugh didn't get along. The Kaepernick years, everything about Kaepernick and how he was blackballed and this and that, So it's all going to be outlined in this book. But the one thing that's clear is that, Shanahan is a great coach and they haven't gotten it done yet. They haven't gotten it done yet. So it's like, if you want to hold his feet to the fire because they haven't gotten it done, I think that's totally fair. When you get fatalistic in this, he's never going to do it. Well, you could have gotten fatalistic. And I'm sure many WIP radio hosts in Philly were quite fatalistic on Andy Reid's ability to win the Super Bowl all those years that he lost with McNabb. But he lost with McNabb. Was McNabb better than Brady in the Super Bowl? No.
Tatum and Brown will never win an NBA title together. Oops.
Yeah. Yeah. You have until you have,
Phil Mickelson will never win oops.
Right. Easter Sunday, Masters. I remember it. Yeah. Never, don't, so I get it. Shanahan, it's not just that Shanahan has lost. He has had a hand in more than one of these defeats and needs to own it. But there's a big difference between, hey, we got a great coach who's made a couple bad decisions and he needs to own it. And, compare that to, what? It's Chip Kelly running shitty plays at a breakneck speed. It's Jim Tomsula. It's Mike Singletary. It's Mike Nolan. I like the smell in the building and all this crap. You've got a top tier NFL head coach. He hasn't done it yet. So, what do you want to do? What do you want to do about it? Personally, I look at things, and this because you and I know each other well, but I look at things from not what Shanahan does. I look at things. I'm a players guy. I believe in players. Steve Kerr is, Steve Kerr, a bad coach, or Steve Kerr, a great coach. Well, you know what? Some people would say he's super overrated and he just had great players. Other people would say, no, he's underrated and he's absolutely a great coach. Well, either way, he's got rings. And sometimes that's the bottom line. But like Don Nelson doesn't have any rings, but Don Nelson is still elite. So only one team wins. They have a parade for that team every year. It's a big deal. So I don't know. I'm just, to me, I believe that they will eventually get it done with Shanahan.
To evaluate this franchise,
not everybody believes
any other way other than, boy, they got a really good team. Boy, they're awfully close. It would be stupid to give up on this formula right now. That's it. That's where they are. There's only one thing left for the 49ers to do, and that's win the Super Bowl. They have done everything else. Think
of it this way. If you win Super Bowls when you have, great quarterbacks in their prime and great head coaches, well, who in the NFL is positioned with that right now, where they have a great quarterback in their prime and a great head coach? Just a very few. I mean, like I love McVay. I think he's a great coach, but is Stafford in his prime? Probably not. Right. I think Saleh is a damn good coach with the Jets. I really do. I think he's a really good coach. Is Aaron Rodgers in his prime? No. So those, so it's like Mahomes is in his prime and there's Reed. So, okay, there's one. I mean, there's how many are there? There's only a few. Now you've got Herbert now, who's entering his prime. He's got Harbaugh. So he's on the list. I think I would put Purdy on the list with Shanahan. There's probably a few others that we could go to, but like I like Mike Tomlin. I think he's a really good coach. Does he have the quarterback? I don't know.
Probably
I don't
not.
think so. Probably not. So that's to me. If you said that's the barometer, you have to have a great head coach and a terrific quarterback in his prime. I mean, it kind of shows that there's only a few.
Would you even have Sam Darnold still in his prime? I don't think so. His prime's behind him.
He's not a terrific. Well, forget that. He's not a terrific quarterback. I mean, if you said what teams in the NFL right now have terrific quarterbacks and that are in their prime, not old guys, not young guys, quarterbacks in their prime, and a really good head coach, I would say Buffalo with Josh Allen and McDermott. I would say Lamar and Harbaugh.
What about
Lamar and John Harbaugh?
Is Stafford still in his prime?
No, he's not. I think he's not. I think D'Amico and Stroud. Terrific coach, terrific quarterback.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts and Sirianni, they're right there. Definitely Mahomes, definitely Herbert and Harbaugh, Mahomes and Reed. McVay and Stafford is, I like McVay, but Stafford's older.
What do you think of Tua? Does Tua deserve to be in that? He's a great quarterback conversation.
No, Tua doesn't read coverage. Detroit, is Goff a great quarterback? No,
probably not.
Maybe Green Bay with LaFleur and Love.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's it. That is the entire discussion. I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, that kind of cuts through a lot of the league. I mean, you're talking about Buffalo, Baltimore. I don't know. Do you consider Zach Taylor a great coach in Cincinnati? I don't know.
No.
Super Bowl. But okay, so you got Buffalo, Baltimore, Houston, Kansas City, Chargers, Niners. If you want to throw Rams in with Stafford, you could. And after that, Green Bay.
Handful of teams. It's a small handful of teams.
We're talking about 8 teams. Maybe 9. Definitely less than 10.
So there you go. There's really not anything to go over with the 49ers. There really isn't. It's time to get Brandon Aiyuk signed in, get to training camp, everybody ready to go. We recommend that you do. You're a really good football team. Go win a Super Bowl. We fucking dare you. There you go. Last thing, I've got Cyrus Satsis joining me at 11 o'clock. We're going to be talking some Warriors, what they haven't done, really what they have done. We can't find what they have done yet. They just haven't done a lot of things. And it looks like Klay Thompson is in his last hours in a Warriors uniform. And if it is indeed already over and done with for Klay, the only thing we can say for sure is he is one of the most successful players in the history of this franchise. He is among the most beloved players. He's certainly one of the coolest players in the history of the Golden State Warriors. 2nd in franchise three-pointers made, 4th in games played, 5th in field goals, 6th in points scored, 9th in steals, 1st in scaffolding evaluations, 1st in lovable dog, 1st in nautical miles traveled to get to work, 1st in dating more hot chicks than you ever even heard of. Klay keeps it all on the down low, and that's why business stays booming in the who you dating department. This guy's lapped the field as one of the coolest dudes to ever come through this town under the category of sports. And if it really is over and done with, what an awesome run. And I think it's the right time for it to be over and done with. I got no hard feelings. I got no shame on yous to anybody in this entire process. I think it was an awesome run, and you're at the end of the run, and it's probably better to just go your own ways. I really believe that.
Well, first of all, I mean, I can't say this about a lot of players, but I love Klay Thompson, man. I think Klay Thompson is just one of the guys that I really, truly love as a Bay Area sports fan. The Warriors did a kids basketball clinic years ago with the Splash Brothers, with Steph and Clay and Ray Ritter, who's just the ultimate PR guy. This is when Cambiar, I was still at Cambiar, and Cambiar was still the flagship of the team. And he's like, "Hey, you want to bring?" He knew I had young boys. He's like, "You want to bring your boys to this basketball clinic?" I'm like, "Oh, it'd be awesome." I mean, they were literally charging like season ticket holders like $5,000 to go do this basketball clinic, and it was like catered. It was on their rooftop of their practice facility in downtown Oakland on like a Friday night, right after training camp, before the season started. And Steph and Clay were there. And the next year they did it with KD and Steph and Draymond and the whole deal. But this one was just the Splash Brothers. And these guys were Steph and Clay were just so cool to the kids, so great around the kids. I mean, Clay is like a jumbo kid, and he just is so gracious, so kind-hearted, so fun-loving, so just, exactly the way you'd want him to be. And it was just awesome. And he treated the kids so well, and not like he's going to, why wouldn't he? But I mean, he's just a great dude. And I just think he does need to move on. And if I'm, a lot of people speculating he's going to go to Dallas. Dallas has, I believe, a $17 million trade exception. If the Warriors could get like a young piece like Olivier Maxence Prosper, who makes like $2-3 million plus that $17 million trade exception, and get Clay a few more bucks and send him to Dallas, I could see that. The other one I think that makes sense is Clay to the Lakers. I mean, I think Clay's probably thought about playing for the Lakers a lot. His dad works as an announcer for the Lakers. I mean, if you're going to play your final year or two in the NBA, wouldn't you want to play in front of Pops? And, his dad's a great guy, and we've had him on the show a bunch, Michael Thompson. I think Michael would love to watch Clay with the Lakers. So then the Lakers are, there's a lot of talk that he's going to go there for the mid-level. I think the Warriors may try to work a sign and trade so that they get something in return. Now, I don't know what they're going to get, Jared Vanderbilt or Austin Reeves, or I don't know what they're going to get.
I would want Rui Hachimura.
Rui Hachimura would be good. He makes $8.5 million a year. So, I mean, there's or maybe more. But anyway, they've got two or three pieces.
Was D'Angelo Russell?
Yeah, no, God, no D'Lo. But I mean,
it happened.
I think if I know Clay the way I think I know him, I think it's the Lakers. I mean, if you want to get over the Warriors, go play for the Lakers. There's, the Lakers are a bigger story. They're a bigger deal. They're a national team. They're a bigger brand. There's so much focus. He needs that. I think he thrives off that. That extra juice. And I think it would be a really fun way for him to finish out. So I'll say, I think he winds up with the Lakers. Chris Paul is now with Wemby in San Antonio.
By the way, the Warriors, you want to talk about getting nothing out of a guy
for Jordan Poole?
Oh, I mean, for Jordan Poole, for Chris Paul, however you want to do it. Like Chris Paul didn't help the Warriors a lick on the court. He doesn't get used as an asset on his way out the door. Jordan Poole has been turned into nothing when it all comes out in the wash. And that just on Friday, I was just telling you that I really like the way Mike Dunleavy's going about this. I'm not sure I like the way Mike Dunleavy went about that. There's also rumors that, they were close to a Paul George trade, but didn't pull the trigger on it.
Well, what happened there?
They were gotten back. There was
no. What happened there was the Clippers didn't want to trade Paul George to the Warriors.
Okay, well,
the Warriors felt like they had a couple different deals on the table that the Clippers were going to go for, and the Clippers didn't want to go for those deals. Supposedly, one of them even included Kuminga. So, the Clippers had a game plan of how they want to go about this, and they didn't want to send Paul George in the division to the Warriors, and I can understand that. But I think that was probably their best move, and they passed it up. So, whatever. We'll see. As far as Golden State, they now have the mid-level and the mini mid-level, and they're going to try to work a sign and trade for Clay. And we'll see what they can get done. I will say this. I have a solution to replace Clay, because you got to replace that shooting. The shooting is what you really got to replace. And to me, if I'm the Warriors, if you go back, there are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts to the title. You just don't get it. You don't get shortcuts to the title in pro sports. The Warriors drafted Steph Curry. He was 20 years old. They drafted Klay Thompson. He was 20 years old. They drafted Harrison Barnes. He was 20 years old. They drafted Draymond Green. He was 21. That's how they put together their last title team. They drafted these guys when they were 20. So I would say they need to go about the same approach and go for some young talent. Now, I've heard people say, oh, they may re-sign James Wiseman, who's 23. I'm not a huge fan of that because I'm not a huge fan of Wiseman. But there's two guys that I think I would definitely sign if I was Golden State. One is Isaiah Joe, who played for Musselman at Arkansas and then has been with the 76ers. He's 23, 24, but the guy is just an absolute dead-eye shooter. And then Tristan Vukovic is a 21-year-old big man who played for the Wizards, who they just bought his contract out. He's 21, though, and he's got just an unbelievable stretch 5, stretch 4, Euro stroke. I mean, this guy can shoot the ball with range, from beyond the arc, and he's got a beautiful touch. I mean, to me, you lost Klay. You lost a great shooter. Go get a couple of young, beneath the radar guys like Isaiah Joe and Tristan Vucevic, and see where you're at. Add a couple of guys with some skill who can shoot. See if you can make a deal for Klay. And they're not going to. The Warriors are not winning a title.
They already got Quentin Post. What are you worried about? The kid's going to hit 40% of every 3-point shot you ever take. No, look.
Yeah, they added a couple of shooters on draft night. And we'll see what those guys can do. But I would do the same thing. Add some guys who can shoot the basketball. And then, you're always going to be pace and space with Kerr. There's always going to be a lot of movement off the ball. But if you can surround Steph Curry with, 2 or 3 other guys who can flat out shoot the ball, I think that's a good place to start. I really do. That's what I would do. I wouldn't worry about. Now, the other talk is, and I don't know if you saw this today, but the Warriors and one other team are hot on the trail of Lauri Markkanen. And Markkanen is a free agent next offseason. So next summer, he's a free agent, and he's rebuffed the Jazz and any kind of contract extensions to the point where Ainge is now thought to be actually entertaining trade offers for Markkanen. And there's a big rumor around the Warriors that they're only going to move Jonathan Kuminga if they can get a good young player in return. And a lot of people are speculating that it's probably Markkanen who's on their list. Would you trade Jonathan Kuminga in a package for Lauri Markkanen? Now, Kuminga's an incredible athlete. Markkanen, I believe, has been an all-star once or twice. But he's not the athlete that Kuminga is, but he might be a nice little fit with Steph. Would you do that, Damon?
I'm not blown away by it.
By Markkanen?
I'm not. He's 27. Want to look at his numbers beyond just being a stretch. I don't know.
He can shoot it. He's an all-star. I mean, he would fit with Draymond Green, right? He blends with Green in that you got to have a shooter. Though Green had a great year from beyond the arc this last year. He definitely had the biggest year. Alex says Levine for Wiggins. Supposedly the Warriors turned down, or the Bulls turned down Wiggins. Oh, the Warriors turned down. The Bulls offered Zach Levine for Wiggins and Paul's $30 million expiring, and the Warriors said no because Levine makes a boat ton.
He makes an awful lot. He makes an awful lot. He's always hurt, but boy, he's a talented guy too. And I think in a better situation, he would be a much better player. Maybe that applies to Lauri Markkanen as well. I don't know. I just don't think that the Warriors are going to cobble together a title run here. You know, what I do think is important though, is that with Klay out of the picture, they can figure out what Moses Moody is. I mean, Moses Moody is either going to be an important piece of how they go forward or someone that you got to get rid of because he's taking up a roster spot. And they haven't figured him out. And they're going into year 4 of this guy. I like Moses Moody. I want to see what he's got. I really like Jonathan Kuminga going into, again, he's 21, right?
Right.
Jonathan
They're both
Kuminga.
21.
Yeah.
They both are.
These guys are so young still. If you are in the Golden State Warriors business, I don't think you should be getting out of the young player with upside who you still don't really know, but has been in your system long enough to really do something with it this year. I don't know, man. I just feel like the Warriors, it's too bad that Draymond's contract came up before Clay's, because I guarantee if you could sodium pentothal, the front office, would you rather have Clay or Draymond going forward? I bet you that they would have rather had Clay going forward, but Draymond's the guy they got into the deal with, and they deserve everything they get out of him. They deserve every excellent defensive possession that they're going to get out of Draymond Green from here to the end of his contract. They also deserve every single 30-game absence because he hit somebody over the head with a folding chair suspension. I don't know.
I mean, Green's kept his legs in shape, and he's bounced back from his injuries better than Clay. And he's been able to, and his game has aged better because his game is about, protecting the rim and, right, getting other people involved. And it's
single-handedly sabotaged the last 2 basketball seasons.
Oh, there's no question, but I'm just saying his skill set has aged better than Clay's. Clay's lost, Clay hits a lot of the front rim. I mean, his shot really flattened out. I don't know if it was the Achilles or the ACL. I mean, he still shot 39% from 3.
He was still like 44% since the All-Star break. Clay still shot it a little. Not quite like he used to, but he still shot it a little, but he was a traffic cone defensively.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's nothing. He doesn't have that lateral agility anymore.
What I would like to see the Warriors do, and I think their best chance to be an impactful team going forward, is to just say, you know what, forget about trying to place all these guys in their 3-point percentages, and you just go in and get the best defensive players that you can get. Defense, playing rock solid regular season defense is the way out of this for the Warriors. I don't think there's any other way.
It's defense is part of it. I mean,
signed with the Thunder for 4 years.
What's that?
Isaiah Joe signed with the Thunder for 4 years.
He just signed this morning.
I don't know.
Yeah, so he's a great shooter. He's a great shooter. But this Tristan Vucevic is a great shooter as well. He's a big man. There's also Buddy Hield, if you want to go with an older player who can shoot the ball. I mean, you could replace Clay with that. We'll see. But Golden State's got to, the question, people are suggesting, well, what about trading Draymond? Steph Curry is probably had a hard time dealing with the idea of playing without Clay. I mean, Draymond is literally his on-court bodyguard.
You can't take both those guys away from Curry.
Yeah, you can't. He's got to have, and Draymond, I think, means more to Steph's game than Clay, to be honest. So I don't see that. But we'll see. I mean, there's to me, I would just go with the younger free agents. I'll give you a list of some young free agents. James Wiseman, young free agent. Mo Bamba, young free agent. Sadiq Bey is pretty young. Miles Bridges.
Way, I would be a little interested in Sadiq Bey, and they weren't they?
They had him.
Sadiq Bey was in the Wiseman trade.
Yeah, they moved him on, but Sadiq Bey, I think, another Villanova guy who knows how to play. He can play a little 3, a little 4. He can shoot the ball. He can defend. I kind of like him. Amani Bailey, the former UCLA combo guard, he's 20. He's a free agent. And there's some other guys as well. Bol, I've kind of always liked. He's a free agent. There's a few. Miles Bridges has had problems off the floor, but he's only 26. He's a free agent. Amani Bates is a free agent. He's 20. I mentioned James Wiseman's 23. Vucevic is 21. If I were them, I would definitely try to get some skill. I mean, defense is nice too, but you do have some good defensive athletes right now. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Wiggins. It's like, so they got to find somebody who, will take Wiggins. Now, the talk out of Brooklyn is that Brooklyn is rebuilding and they want to move, is it Cam Johnson, their great shooter, and Ben Simmons. The Warriors have some bad money in their own right in Wiggins, who, is making a boatload of cash. Some of the, they say that the Bulls are going to have to attach a number 1 to Levine to move him, and that the Warriors may have to attach a number 1 to Wiggins to move him. and that the Nets may have to attach multiple ones to Simmons to move him. So something tells me some of these guys may get moved for one another. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
we'll take your problem, you take our problem.
Yeah, you're trading head cases there. I wouldn't want anything. I would rather watch Andrew Wiggins start 82 games than watch Ben Simmons start one. Ben Simmons is
I'd rather see Ben Simmons, to be honest, because I know Ben Simmons has sucked, but Ben Simmons with the Warriors, I mean, Ben Simmons' problem is that he can't shoot. But on the Warriors, play him on the ball. And you've got Steph and you've got some of these other guys. You've got some guys who can shoot the ball. So I'd love to see what Ben Simmons would look like with Steph Curry playing Simmons on the ball and finding Curry as a kind of a more glorified two. I mean, it would be fun to watch. Ben Simmons is a 6'10" point guard who can't shoot, but he can sure pass.
He's afraid of being on a basketball court.
Oh, I know.
It's
really sad. It's kind of
an
amazing story, really.
It's like Mackie Sasser with the yips. He doesn't even know how to throw the ball back to the pitcher anymore.
Nick Anderson or something, It's like he's in his own head. I mean, how do you be a pro basketball player who's making $40 million a year and not be able to get with a basic mechanics of a shooter coach in an empty gym and just shoot free throws to the point where you could make 75%? You can't. You're telling me you couldn't make 75% of your free throws? I coached a 5th grade team that a kid got fouled in the backcourt in the city championship with the city title on the line. He stepped to the free throw line and he made both free throws. He was a 5th grader. Now, why can Ben Simmons with $40 million in the bank?
Because your 5th grader is more of a man than Ben Simmons. There you go. There's your answer.
Seriously. That's probably it. He did have a high school girlfriend.
I'm not signing up.
5th grader who had a high schooler who would shot.
Here's the deal, Larry.
High school girl who showed up.
I'm not signing up for anyone who I know upstairs is a pussy. And that's what I don't like about Wiggins, and that's what I don't like about Ben Simmons. Mentally, you are a pussy. No other way to say it. When it comes to not getting in the gym and working on your free throw, nobody does that faster than you. That's these guys. I'm sorry.
But it's like, why do you work? Why does anybody work? You work at your job so that you make money. But when you give a guy $150 million, you're taking away all of his motivation. And that's what's happened here. I've heard people say, well, Ben Simmons he's got $150 million in the bank. He's a young, good-looking kid with $150 million in the bank. Something tells me he doesn't feel like he needs to listen to anybody. Probably doesn't.
Yeah. No, again, he's already made his money.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
If he was going to work hard, he would have by now, right?
Right. You would think.
That's all we know. If it was going to happen, probably would have by now. So not happening, doesn't want it to happen. Don't pick up somebody else's problem. Don't replace your problem that with an unknown problem. And that's, to me, like I can't stand Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins might as well be the Incredible Hulk when you compare him to Ben Simmons.
By the way, I thought we were, having a good show, and I flipped on to my Twitter, right? And it shows you over here. It's just like plus whatever, 570, and it's got me there. It says plus 583. And then right above it says the Jim Rome Show, plus 325,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it tells us Jim's doing a little better than us this morning.
If Elon struck a deal with us to push us out, like Jim gets pushed out, maybe we would see these numbers.
There you go. That's it. Come on, Elon.
Make it happen, Elon.
We're beating Styles and Watkins, though. Sacktown Sports. We're crushing those guys, but we're losing to Rome and the Jim Rome Show by about 596,000.
I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I am good with it. There you go. I think that's the show. I mean, if you really want people to tune away, we could talk about the Giants or Macklin Celebrini, but there's no reason to really do any of that. I'll give this to the Giants. They did pull up from a June swoon here with a decent homestand at the end against the Cubs and the Dodgers. They finished June.
Cubs bullpen, my God, it's
Terrible.
bad.
Yeah. 12 and 14 in June. Not bad. Considering how the month started, I don't know how. They're 3 games out of the playoffs. It's nuts. They got Spencer Bivens, like he's entered the chat. That was a decent start out of him. They're going to get more pitching help on the horizon here. So, there's no reason to totally abandon the topic of baseball. Not yet. Giants are going to tread water and pretend to be interesting for another month or two here, I think.
Well, we'll see. I mean, the Giants need to get active at the trade deadline and get themselves they only have 2 starting pitchers. I'll say this though. Some of the starting pitching that some of the young pitchers that have come out of the Giants system in the last, few weeks, have looked really good. I was watching that game yesterday. The kid Landon Roop, that kid, he gave up 3 runs yesterday. But
yeah, those are rough late inning.
But the stuff is nasty. I mean, his stuff is incredible. And that young pitcher they brought up the other day, Birdsong, that kid looked like about 9 years old. You guys like that guy, Dave Fleming's going to have a full beard before that guy. It's like this guy really looks like a baby. But man, stuff was big time. And they've got Wisenhunt coming. They got Harrison. They got some good young arms coming. So obviously they've got Cobb coming back and they've got Ray coming back. And
I would be cool.
We'll see what their bullpen looks like at the end of the year.
Trade anybody who's a veteran on this team. I mean, just get rid of them. Just get rid
They
of them.
don't have anybody wants really.
Chapman should be gone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like one of these things. Like, who wants any of these guys?
Like Jorge Soler, get him out of there.
Jorge Soler is now leading off and starting to swing the bat. I knew he would. Ramos is still hitting close to 300. He had 3 hits yesterday. He looks good. Chapman is getting it going. I mean, he's still hitting low average, but what a fielder he is. Chapman made a play on a ball yesterday. He made 2 plays where if you're Nick Ahmed, you got to be sitting there going, what the hell am I even doing
Nick
out
Ahmed,
here?
Get Nick Ahmed off this team.
I know one was a pop-up, though, that Ahmed was right there, and it's like, dude, it was Ahmed's ball. I mean, what, Ahmed can't catch a pop-up? Another was a ground ball, and it was literally 50% of the way between second and third, and Chapman just moves right in front of Ahmed and made the play. It's like, dude, Nick Ahmed's a pretty good defensive shortstop. Chapman's acting like me or you are standing out there at shortstop. Giants took 2 out of 3 from LA though. Nice little weekend. They shut down Ohtani for the most part. I mean, he went 0 for 5 yesterday and struck him out 3 times. So, I mean, the Giants are still sub 500. And I don't, they need
3 games out of a playoff spot. Welcome to the new world of baseball.
I mean, the Giants' issue, I think, more than anything, is that, it's like they went with Trenton Brooks at first base for a few weeks. Why? I have no idea. I mean, they make very odd decisions. But now, at least right now, you got Matos up, you got Ramos up, you got Soler and Chapman starting to swing it a little bit. Their pitching looks really, really thin, but they're getting reinforcements back. To me, it's like, are the Giants going to make that one big bat addition that we were always waiting in the offseason for?
No.
Are they going to make it this year at the trade deadline? Because they have the pieces to do it.
They won't do it. They won't do it. I think they should sell more than they should be looking to be buyers right now.
But they don't have anything to sell unless they're willing to sell Snell.
Here's the thing.
Ray,
dead weight.
Cobb.
Anything that's dead weight. Anything that is dead weight. Anything that is over 28 and hitting 210. Get rid of them. Go.
Yeah.
Let's hit some starred chats. What do you got here? What do we got?
Red Eye says Kyle looked like a mobster dude at the wedding. Yeah, did you see Shanahan with the mustache?
He did.
Not a great look. Aldo Martinez, can you name a game where BA dominated?
How about this? Can you name me the game where any wide receiver or pass catcher dominated the game through that. Doesn't really happen. It's not what the Niners do.
Well,
Even when Kittle has one of those like
JJ kind of dominated the Super Bowl.
135 yard games, it'll be on like 4 catches, 5 catches.
Yeah. I mean, the Niners spread it around, and that's kind of why the Niners, how many guys, I'm a Niner fan. You guys are Niner fans. How many times when you play fantasy football do you ever sit there and say, I want Debo, I want Aiyuk, I want Kittle? No, you don't. You don't want the Niners weapons because they spread it around, and it's really hard to predict week to week who's going to produce. And they got so many different weapons. Now they've added Pearsall, another mouth to feed at the bowl. So I don't know. I would say I might take a late round flyer on Pearsall as a sleeper, but the rest of the Niner offensive players, I'd have some interest in Purdy, as he might have a good year. But
yeah, no, Purdy and Christian McCaffrey are your Niner fantasy weapons. That would be it.
That would be it. Barry Ford says, during the majority of my time serving in the Navy, I lived in and loved Southern California. In San Diego, my son lives 5 blocks from where I lived in North Park. Drop the 10 spot in the jar for me.
Thank you very much. Putting it in the ganja jar, Barry. I appreciate it. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your son's service. It's just awesome. And there's parts of San Diego that are very, very nice, man. Very, very nice. Get a good taco down there.
Especially north of La Jolla there. Isn't it the Marines that own all that land? Camp Pendleton, I believe, north of San Diego, all along they own like about 75 miles of coastline north of San Diego. Camp Pendleton, I believe. Gold Tao says California send broke folks to Texas. Texas send them back once homeless. Oh, nice. It's a nice little sentiment. Bacon and eggs breakfast croissant. I am waiting for Larry to snap on the chat. It has been almost a month. I don't always snap on the chat. In fact, I got lectured the other day from the real boss of my channel, Kevin Kruger, who's gallivanting through Europe with his girlfriend right now. He said, Dad, don't snap on the chat. So I guess that's kind of like Snapchat advice. No, I'm just joking. Anyway, but yes, he said, don't snap on the chat. So Kev said it. I haven't done it. Around the Ballpark, shout out for a great conversation today. Oh, thank you, Around the Ballpark.
See, I'm uncoachable. I might snap on anyone at any time.
Yeah, exactly. Don't. If you can resist it, try not to snap on anybody.
Here, I'll leave you with this.
It's a good rule of life. Just don't snap.
So are we done with all the chats? Did we get through them all?
Yeah, that was it.
Thanks to everyone. Thanks for everyone watching. I'm going to leave you with a nice little story that makes me happy, and hopefully it makes you happy too. So every 2-3 years, Tim Roy cleans out the garage, the attic, the den, the office, whatever. And I am the recipient of something. Every 2 or 3 years, an envelope, a Golden State Warrior team envelope, shows up to my house with an old Sports Illustrated article in it that's usually about Bobby Knight. I remember this. Tim Roy thinks everything that he can find in old Sports Illustrateds. I get a letter, a random letter from Tim Roy, like once every 3 years. And I know that Tim's going through a little spring cleaning at home, and I get Bob Knight old Sports Illustrated articles. It's one of my favorite moments of the year. I thank Tim Roy once again for making me smile and so happy. I'll cover up my address, but there you go. Right on Warriors Stationery. There it is. I see that letter. I'm like, oh, that's a Bobby Knight article. What do you got for me, Tim? Sure enough, every time. It's one of my favorite things of the year.
That's love, man. So thanks. I'll tell you, that's the number one thing I miss about my dad is my dad used to read the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the New Yorker, all these, and he would send me every sports related article that he read in any of those papers. It would show up, with my dad's writing on the envelope every 2 days. Your dad sent you another article. And he's just
so
like,
here's the thing.
he's like, am I bothering you? I'm like, no, you're not bothering me. It's all food for thought. Our job is to come up with things to talk about. Sometimes it spurs a topic, and especially some of those articles in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times on sports are really, really, really well done and well researched. And there's some fantastic stuff. So I said, no, Dad, send me that stuff all the time. And literally, every 3 or 4 days.
How rare is it to get a piece of mail where as soon as you pull it out of the mailbox, you smile, right? There's just bad news and bills and just all kinds of stuff you don't even want in your mailbox. So whenever I see Tim Roy's got a little something for me, it brings a big smile to my face. So there you go. Get mail that makes you smile. Little life advice from me to you. Send mail that makes other people smile. Not
exactly.
Actual mail.
Exactly. Not email, actual mail. Mail. And it's not just it's not, hey, 5% off at Clark's to get rid of bugs in your attic. It's
what I love
actual correspondence.
I love that Tim's still working on old Warrior stationery.
Look at that. They're going to get their money's worth out of the orange. Click and roll at warriors.com.
And here, Tim always includes a little handwritten note like this, and it says, Damon, the purge of my garage continues. Hope you like these, Tim. So thank you, Tim. Thank you very much.
Tim and I go way, way, way back.
Just a great guy.
Tim was, when I was scouting in the Canadian Football League in 1994, Tim Roy was the voice of the Sacramento Gold Miners, and we sat poolside together in Winnipeg.
No, great place to be poolside. Winnipeg, tropical.
Poolside in Winnipeg. A lot of good memories of the old CFL days.
Couldn't make it to the beach in Moose Jaw that day, so you sat poolside in Winnipeg. Nice.
Poolside in Winnipeg. I think it was the same night that I saw the Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge tour. Ooh. I believe I was the only person who stood up. The Canadian audience I was in Winnipeg was so calm, so subdued that it almost didn't feel like a rock. It almost didn't feel like a rock and roll concert. But there you have it.
There you go. So
the Stones,
not partying in Winnipeg with the Stones like they used to. There it is, Larry. I got to get rolling before Cyrus joins me on my channel at 11. I know you and I will be back at it Wednesday, and then you'll be blowing up shit on the 4th of July with your brother on Thursday. We'll come back for another 49er wake up on Friday if you're game. If you want to call Friday a holiday observed, that's fine too, unless we got some actual information or news to talk about. That might be the right direction to go in. But thanks,
two last chats here. Samuel Rosario says, Larry, will Ramos make the All-Star game? Yes, Ramos will make the All-Star game. And Michael Nobriga says, Larry, any possible trade package for Brandon Ingram? I think they're going to try. I think they're absolutely going to try. Ingram is probably at or near the top of the Warriors list, though it's probably going to take Kuminga and more to get Ingram out of New Orleans. He also has 1 year left.
The whole Paul George thing. Paul George is hurt for every important game he's supposed to play. So
Paul George is also 34.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I would much rather stay in the 27 and under grouping, even though Steph's older. Doesn't mean that his surrounding cast must be older.
No, it actually insists the other way. If you ask me about it, the older Steph gets, the younger the cast needs to be. The chance to surround Steph with the veteran crew to get one more, that chance is passed. Like, that happened. So I feel like the Warriors kind of painted themselves into a corner of change that might come with some rashes and some burns on it for Warriors fans, but it's the right direction to probably be going in. Trying to keep this thing just floating isn't as important as changing your swimming style. And I think it's time for the Warriors to change how they swim a little bit.
There you go. Well said. That's going to do it for us. I think.
Don't blow yourself.
This show has gone on and on and on. I was going to get an oil change for the Miata, and I just figured, I've got extra time because, I know this show's going to continue going on and on and on. And I called my friend Trent Balky, and I said, Trent, would you come over to Marin and have some Amicis and help? I got to take my car for an oil change. And he said, Ralph, you haven't torn your ACL and you never were much of an athlete, but because you were a college cheerleader, I'm there for you.
Miata.
What?
I was going to say, you're a Miata guy. A Miata guy. Okay, that's it.
What a guy.